Comedian Korey David, man, how are you?
Everything's pretty good. Had a fun weekend, good meal yesterday, and some fun shows too. Also a not so great show, but otherwise, everything's pretty fun.
Yeah. Are you on the road right now, or how's that work?
No, I've been on the road way less since we started doing the show at Comedy Works.
Okay.
Because my regular schedule was always kind of try to be on the road, I don't know, every 4 to 5 weeks. But now that we're doing 2 shows a month at Comedy Works, it kind of keeps me anchored here a little bit more. So my rotations kind of try to do once a month, maybe in between the Comedy Works dates, and I'll be in Portland literally for a day this coming weekend because I was originally supposed to be in Oregon like Thursday, Friday, and then I found out that I'm on the High Plains Festival this weekend, which I found
But you
out.
just found out randomly, so that does that.
So where is that?
I was not
Where is
expecting
that
to
at?
do it. I haven't like been in town for the festival for like the last 2 years. I just planned myself out of town. But yeah, this one I got invited, and that they do that on South Broadway in Denver.
Okay.
And that's like they do that. My shows are on Thursday and Friday. So then I was kind of torn about it. I was kind of like, well, maybe I should just keep doing my own thing and not worry about it because I already had like a date scheduled and a concert I wanted to go to. But I was, it'd be fun to be a part of the festival. It's a cool achievement. It's like, so I'm going to stick around. So I had to bail on a couple dates and literally have a show at 11 on Friday night. And then I have like an 8 a.m. flight on Saturday to get to Portland, do the show. And then I fly back out at like noon.
Where are
on
you
Sunday.
playing in Portland?
McMinimans, Al's Den. Are you guys familiar with the McMinimans?
I am. Yeah.
They are such a cool organization.
Yeah.
I've done shows at some of their venues before. It's this group that they buy old historic buildings in Oregon and they preserve them and turn them into hotels, restaurants, music venues, comedy venues, things like that.
So that is a comedy venue specific that you're going to.
I think that it's kind of a multi-use space.
Yeah, I
those
think
bands.
that's kind of what they're known for. Is like everybody's buying these buildings and doing like the multi-use situation, like different restaurants,
that's
different
cool.
businesses, like kind of like what we're doing right now.
Yeah, instead of like tearing it down, they're awesome about like preserving that stuff. Which I wish. I mean, I don't know how many historic buildings are in Denver that you'd even want to preserve.
Dana Crawford's actually known for that in Denver. So that's like the flour mill loft, the stable car lofts, and all that.
For a second,
those
I
are
thought you
actually
said-
known for being historical buildings.
I thought for a second he said Dana Carvey. I'm like, wow, what a philanthropist.
That is not what I said.
But that's what I thought too. So you're not alone. I was like, what?
Just a little
There
off.
actually are quite a few buildings that people live in downtown that are deemed historical that developers go in and they actually keep a lot of the bones of the building. And in certain lofts and stuff like that, it gives them a lot of character. It's pretty neat how
And a lot of
they do
taxes.
that.
Is there extra fees for
This
like
is Colorado, baby. Everything's got extra taxes.
extra fees? Yeah, 100%.
I love when cities do that kind of stuff. Chicago's really good about that too. They let certain businesses buy buildings with the intention of them just reusing the space instead of knocking it down. I think that's so cool. I love a city to me feels like a city because of the architecture mostly. There's the culture of the people, the food, like that sort of jazz. But like being able to walk around and see like, wow, this is like such a period piece from 100 years ago, that kind of a capsule of time, but we're still getting to use it as like a bar.
Yeah.
I feel like that with Comedy Works Denver, even like when you walk, is because Comedy Works Denver is like world famous for all those comedians. But when you walk into it, it has that kind of old school vibe to it. That's
It's
like
either
in the
that or
cellar.
just because it's in a basement.
Yeah.
It just feels old.
Listen,
This stinks.
things have happened down here.
Well, what I hate is that whole Larimer Square area. Granted, I haven't been to a lot of the businesses there, but it's other than Comedy Works, there's not really a lot of reasons that I want to go down there. I wish that
So
whole
like
block,
Larimer Square?
Yeah.
There's a lot of really good restaurants down there.
I guess I just
All
never
right,
think
we
to
gotta
go.
hang out. We're gonna hang out after one of your shows.
Yeah.
We're all going out. Okay, I'll pay the tab.
Okay.
But we gotta try the signature shot of every one of these places on
Oh,
Larimer.
God. What
And
am I,
when we get
21
to the
again?
end of Larimer, I want to hear like what you think.
signature-
What's on your mind at that moment?
How many shots do you think that's going to be?
It's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot.
But all I heard was he's paying the tab.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Yeah,
as many as we want.
all I heard was, wow, this guy's rich.
Listen, man, I like to have fun. I like to be on Larimer Square. I think people that live in Denver know this. I'm kind of that's what's definitely one of my spots.
Dude, so Jake, we met Korey when we did the Hot Ones Chicken Wing Challenge for the chicken fight.
Yeah,
and you did
super
great,
fun.
by the way, eating all the hot wings,
Like
the
a
hot
champ,
sauce.
man.
Yeah.
Like a champ. 3 million. What was that? 3 million. What do they call that?
Scoville?
The Scovilles?
Yeah.
3 million Scovilles,
Heir
man.
to the Scoville fortune. Yeah, I don't know if you knew this, but my grandfather's a Scoble. But,
It shows. It shows.
a lot of hot sauce money. I was pleasantly surprised at how I did, to be completely honest.
I wasn't sure. It's going into it, you were not confident.
No,
I'm very scared. I won't say scared, but you were like, damn, I don't do hot food.
I didn't know what would happen, and I've never. I mean, I think I've had stuff that's that hot before, but I can't I can't just recall it out of my memory.
But like
That was
consistently,
impressive,
you're going from one
Well,
hot to the next.
It's one thing, like, if you're used to it, right? But to not just be used to it, like, it's one thing to have your buddies dare you in a restaurant to eat the spiciest thing,
one time,
right?
yeah.
To sit up there and do it in front of a couple hundred people.
And tell jokes.
Jokes, exactly. That was pretty impressive.
I was honestly having some PTSD from when my girlfriend and I went to Jakarta and we were hanging out with her family, and they're all just, when you visit like any family, maybe certain ones are different, but like they just start handing you food and it's rude not to eat it. And I'm pretty sure they were just trying to get me to throw up. Like I'm pretty sure
You're like Indiana Jones, but like I think it's rude. It's very insulting if you don't eat the food.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think both of us and you guys probably as well. I don't think Josh or I wound up having like a drink or anything during that.
No, you guys were very.
Listen, I don't think you guys had time to have a drink.
No, we were moving
It
so
was pretty
fast,
quick.
too.
Like we ended up having to go through that a little fast. I mean, considering we put all that together in like a week.
Yeah.
4 days.
Still,
A week is generous.
It
We were
still
like
went
3-day
off
planning.
Pretty good.
You guys did a great job as hosts, by the way. Again, for coming together on the fly, you were being huge dicks, and I really appreciated that.
Ruined his setup for half of his jokes.
You're like, you guys are trying to talk shit to me while my mouth is literally on fire. I wanted to do something, but I could, there was a certain point where I wanted to keep talking, and I just couldn't. Right?
That's like the nightmare that you have where you like can't punch the guy. You're like,
yeah.
You're like, I couldn't get the joke out. Or the guys kept giving me shit.
Well, I went to Korey's show after, like the next day or a few days later, and then I was sitting front row, and I was like, oh man, I was talking shit to him while he's eating these hot wings. Now I'm sitting front row in front of a comedian. I was like, he's totally coming my way.
Were you wearing a mask or a hoodie or something?
No, it was a great show. I was sitting front row, and then
you didn't get him?
No, he seems like his life's already going hard enough. I didn't want to.
It's like you know me. It's like you know me.
I didn't want that to be the last night,
No, but
so you've been following him on Instagram.
Yeah. Woe is me. But no, the show was great. I think you should talk about it because Jake, you didn't see it, but the interaction with the audience was super fun. I think that's what made that different than just seeing normal stand-up where you were actually engaging with people and having them tell their
one of the
stuff.
cool things about the night that you came, so that was the first night that we did a downtown show, and we usually have, I'd say the past few shows we've had, I don't know, like 150 or so people there, but that one was probably one of the lower attended shows that we had. Mm-hmm. But the beauty of the show is that it really doesn't matter how many people are there. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's cool to have the room packed out and have the whole place sold out, whatever, for volume and whatnot. But at the same time, I've kind of figured out this formula to make sure that we're having as much fun as possible with the people in the room. And that's mostly because we force you to be an active participant.
Is it a lot of
show.
Improv then?
It's
you guys set it up for how to describe it because it's kind of
I don't want to say it's improv because improv sucks, but it's more like
unless people are good at it, then it's impressive.
Yeah, which is 5 people.
Yeah.
You know, it's not.
It's not for everybody.
I would say the difference between this and something like improv is you're kind of taking an audience suggestion and building a scene, right? So then you're 5 or 6 people on stage, could be less obviously, but you're building this whole scene that lasts maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. What we're really doing is we're hearing somebody tell a story about a crime, something crime related, and then when we come back on stage, myself and a co-host with that comic, we're kind of doing a mini podcast. So we're just asking them questions. We're asking them questions. We're asking the audience to ask them questions, and we're just using those as prompts for all 3 of us to just say something stupid. I tell everybody before the show starts, I said, just think of the dumbest thing you can say or you can think of.
Okay.
And then we'll just piggyback on top of it.
Wow, I'm like so many things right now that I want to ask.
Just say it.
I'm like,
just say it. It is like
I'm like, no, not for that. No, I'm talking about like, I want to do one right now.
Oh yeah.
Like, okay, what's a good story that's hit the Denver news? or in Colorado that we can.
Oh, I actually saved a bunch of text messages that I was going to do with you guys. If you guys
Oh,
wanted
dude,
to.
yeah, because it's all crime related. So that was the
I love
one.
it.
Yeah,
so
and
it's
I've got
all-
one of yours too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because
Oh,
like
great.
some of it, like the text message. So the text message portion, same thing. We give everybody a spiel at the beginning of the show. This is the hotline number.
Yeah.
We read your text messages anonymously on stage, like a crime hotline,
Love it.
right? So that's the same deal. It's like it's all improving, riffing off of whatever the text is. And I know, so if I don't have the person's number saved in my phone, which is most of the time,
you don't
I
know
don't
who the
see who
numbers.
it is. But I do have your number saved. Yeah.
Yeah, great. I forget which one I told you
Wow,
because
it's
I
not
totally
going to be so random when he starts quoting your stuff. What about that guy? What about the guy that drove onto CU's football field the other day?
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, I will say that the off ramps into Boulder are confusing. Like,
Granted, but there's none right in the middle of the campus.
Well, I guess no, I love it because I guess it's a good breakdown when he says it's not improv because it was totally like people in the audience were saying something and he'd call them out.
Yeah.
But you guys are so quick and good at what you do that you're able
I
to
love
talk
that.
shit to people in the audience and then it almost catches them. Like
Yeah.
the guy sitting next to me, he looked like a cop. He had this mustache.
He
and all that
probably
stuff.
was. He was undercover.
And that was the whole thing. The whole night was all these guys talking smack to him, being like, "Let's ask the cop right here."
The next time we go, we should all put mustaches on.
Well, the next one's on the 18th, right?
yeah,
Let's
next
go.
one's on the
That
18th.
actually sounds super
and
fun.
we have some Halloween shows coming up that I'm happy to talk about later. But yeah, to your point, the fun thing is like we don't try to call anybody out on stage. If they want to volunteer information, then sometimes I'll be like, does anybody want to fess up to this? If they don't want to, it doesn't stop the momentum of the show. But a lot of times them just participating and not even telling a joke will get a laugh.
I like it.
And you know, that show that you went to, that was the first time my parents have ever
Yeah, that
seen the
was good.
show. And they've seen me do comedy before, but they've never seen Interrogation.
Okay.
So I did a story that involved them. And we called them out pretty early after my story was done. And my dad had some zingers. And he wasn't even telling jokes. He was just answering the questions.
Okay.
But just the juxtaposition of it being my dad and him just being honest about it got a huge laugh from the crowd. And that's one of the things that I've found from doing this is that when it's like the whole crowd work phenomenon. If it's happening in the room,
it's like the Matt Rife kind of thing going on.
If it's happening in the room, it seems funnier than it actually is. So like when I was doing a show one time,
people come to laugh, right? I mean, they're like in a
They're
good
in that
mood.
vibe,
Yeah, so it doesn't even have to be anything like groundbreaking. I remember doing a joke one time about like I'm a history buff and I was watching a video about the lost city of Atlantis, and then after my set or during, I was like, has anybody else like a history buff in here? I just like asked, and one guy cheered, right? And I just said, oh, you're like the nerdiest guy in here.
That's me.
Was that Jake? Was it Jake?
Uproarious applause. I'm like, that's not even a funny
I'm a
joke.
ridiculously nerdy history person. So, yeah, it's unfortunate.
No, not really. I was gonna say, I think that stuff's cool, man.
Well, you know what's funny is it's like everything going on in the world today. It's like I feel like if more people were paying attention in civics and history, a lot of this stuff wouldn't be happening.
Right. You're
I think a lot of people just skipped right over that class in high school, didn't do any of it in college.
we do have a roadmap for this.
We've
seen this play out
wow,
before.
man, this has happened before.
Who's the last comedian's famous for locally famous or even he's been on tour nationally, right? Who's the last?
Oh,
dude?
Derek Stroop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Derek's pound for pound, I think, the funniest comedian in Colorado. He opens for Bert Kreischer. He opens for Nate Bargatze. He's opened for Larry the Cable Guy. He's been very successful in his own right. But yeah, he's absolutely crushing right now.
That was what was cool about the show. So all the comedians would come on and tell their crime story or whatever they went through. And then these guys would come out and grill him about his story. And it was just like...
Bert Kreischer's whole rap is his gigantic crime story about robbing people on a train, right?
Right? Yeah, the machine. I would love to have him on the show. Put it out there.
He is a
But are
funny
you
son
booking?
of a bitch.
You're booking all these comedians that come in there, right? Like, is that part of you running this show? Is like, oh, I got to have this comedian on and that. Are you setting all that up?
Yeah, I'm a kind of a one-man show for the time being. The next evolution of the show is I want to start bringing in enough revenue that I can start hiring people to help me do a lot of stuff. But right now, I'm booking all of the shows. I'm doing the marketing. I get a little bit of help from the venues and whatnot, but I'm putting the marketing material together. I'm editing the web series episodes that are going out. I'm editing all the clips that we're doing. So it's
You're
as
a
you guys.
comedian and a small business owner. I mean, you literally just like spouted off what everybody that would start a restaurant is You're like, except for you're just telling jokes, which is great. You don't have to you don't have a whole lot of overhead on the backside.
Yeah, and hopefully I don't have to worry about giving anybody food poisoning.
There's not a whole lot of insurance for that. You're good.
If you had food poisoning at my show, that's you. You did that. Like I didn't.
No
you brought that in
That
here.
was before.
Yeah, you ate the questionable tacos before you got here. That's your fault. That's a you
Well, it's
problem.
good. My wife for our anniversary this year, my anniversary gift was she bought me a gift to take her to a comedy show.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, this is like we're
Which is a
heading down
weird
good path.
date. I'm gonna go ahead and say that's a weird date. I mean, if you guys have been together for a long time,
20
totally
years,
different.
20 years.
You got to imagine the number of people, especially in a low key swinger town like Denver, where everybody's a swinger, but they call it polyamorous. You know what I mean? There are so many first dates that come to shows, and I just don't understand why. It blows my mind. So it's like, wait a minute, you wanted to come on a date where you're supposed to be getting to know somebody, and if you do speak at all for an hour and a half, you will get blasted. Like, people aren't going to be happy about it.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna laugh at jokes where the person's like, "That's not funny."
Well,
Like,
maybe that's like, hey, listen, for an hour and a half, you're figuring out like, all right, is the next
does
hour
she
and a
got
half?
a sense of humor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, is Tinder like, oh, listen, it's still early. We
Yeah,
caught
exactly.
the early show. We could do this again.
Yeah, I've got another date right after this one. Yeah. You can always tell because usually the guy will do like the side eye over at the woman just to see if he's allowed to laugh. You know, just like, wow, Todd really likes dead babies.
Do you really catch that from on stage? Because like when you're on stage, the lights are definitely kind of in your eyes and stuff. Do you really catch? Do you
Like
see a lot of
facial
that happening in the
interactions?
room?
Every show is very different. Totally
Yeah.
depends on their light setup. I will say that the shows that have the most blinding lights, it's great for you. It's great for the audience to see you, but I hate those shows because I love to be able to at least just make some eye contact or at least see kind of what's happening in the room. Because if you are just performing in front of a bright white light, it's kind of hard to do anything but the jokes.
Yeah.
You kind of have to stay on
Because you can't
script.
play off them, or you don't see how they're responding, or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm only just like audibly responding. I'm like, it sounds like you didn't like that. It's not.
So is it better like the smaller kind of comedy works type venue where it's more intimate, or do you see the bright light happening like on like a bigger auditorium kind of thing, like where you're Kevin Hart and you're standing up there and there's 40,000 people in a room?
Honestly, it's as long as you can see the first couple rows, that's
Okay.
fine. I think it's you want to be able to feel some kind of a connection while you're up there.
Yeah.
You don't need to see the whole room. You don't need to see the back. But during COVID, we were doing those like drive-through shows. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah,
Did you go to
I
that?
do.
When you were
Yeah.
outside, or
Yeah.
what was that? Okay.
We're outside. Everybody's in their cars.
Yeah.
And then if they laughed, they would like honk their horns or flash their lights or something.
Wow.
Yeah. Totally different experience. You're so disconnected from anybody's
The
actual
horns to me would
emotions.
throw me off.
So
from,
listen,
like,
it always amazes me because I've public spoke a lot.
Doesn't
And
show.
I'm really good at public speaking when I public spoke, right? I'm a lot better when I'm reading off a cue card or I'm reading off a piece of paper. I know, right? Yeah, that's why I'm worthless without the piece of paper.
Yeah, that's okay.
So it always amazed me watching you guys up on stage when you can memorize all those jokes,
Sure.
and then also interact with the crowd a little bit.
Yeah.
like that's like what really separates the amazing comics from I guess the rest. It's
yeah,
like
will you bring
really-
note cards out there?
Yeah.
I'll bring my set list up there sometimes if it's like a longer set. Usually if I'm working on new stuff, I like to at least just have it up there because I find that sometimes if I'm doing something new, as soon as I'm done doing it, I'll kind of lose my place a little bit because I'm doing things out of order. And I try to change up the order quite a bit, but usually I try to always set up a set list like it's going to there has a flow to it. It's not just one stark thing to another. And then I'll look at my notes sometimes and I'll be like, oh, that's just a picture of a horse. That's not even like a joke that I had prepared. But yeah, I mean, I don't look at them very often. I find that you wind up looking at it way less than you think. But then you can just do the casual.
See, I would be attached to it. I'd be like, I can't live without this.
Yeah, it's just an experience thing.
yeah.
I mean, it's like you guys do in the podcast. It's like, well, the more you do it, the more you just kind of flow.
Natural.
You just kind of
That's
get
true.
natural with it. And then you can, like, the trick is you just keep a drink on the stool or whatever next to your set list. So you just to go take a sip of your drink and then just to do a quick look at the set list.
Okay.
I try not to do like all right, what's next kind of thing, but just do a quick glance.
Oh,
down.
like you like lift up your water and it's underneath there type of thing.
Yeah.
Do you get nerves? Did the
That's
nerves?
interesting. Is that what's going on with the bar stools when the big comics come out? Do they have
Sometimes.
some? Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
I mean,
I never
it
thought
just
of that.
depends on if there's a piece of paper there or not. If you don't see anything, then
But it's probably
not.
like Cliff Notes where it's not that the full joke.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's
I'd
like-
have to have something written on my arm or something like it.
Yeah, you failed. It's written on your forehead. It's like, shit, now I can't see it. But what was I gonna say?
do you get nerves? Like there's still nerves there, or is it kind of like, yeah, I'm just going on stage. I'm not really.
Super show dependent, you know,
Okay.
and also depends on my responsibility on the show. If I'm hosting, if it's like a 10-minute spot or less, that's easy street. You know, you can kind of breeze through 10 minutes. You know, but if it's potentially a longer spot or you're opening for somebody that you're really excited about, like I just opened for Roy Wood Jr. at the South Club, and he's one of my comedy heroes, and I was trying so hard just not to fangirl in front of him.
Like,
Well,
keep it
that was
cool.
actually going to be my question. Is like, who makes you nervous? It's like it's one thing to be responsible for show. It's a whole other thing if your dad or mom or
big comedian.
obviously you're like somebody you idolize is sitting in the crowd. Like
How did
that's
that go?
gotta be.
Was that?
The show went great, and then he was so cool about it afterwards, and I gushed on him a little bit, but we wound up like grabbing a beer afterwards and having fun. But I actually, yeah, to your point, I actually get more nervous for the interrogation shows. Not about how the show's gonna go. I just don't want to be embarrassed by the attendance. Like I've had some, because it's been a total. I've been doing the show for 2 years, and it's been a total roller coaster in terms of success. We'll have 2 shows in a row that are like sold out or almost sold out, and you're like, wow, this feels really great. And then you'll have 1 or 2 in a row that were like half sold or a quarter sold. I did a show in Chicago. The first time I did it in Chicago, we only wound up selling like 15 tickets or something to the show, and 3 of those were my girlfriend and her cousins.
Yeah.
And it was their cousins' first time seeing me do comedy at all. So I walked out of there thinking like, oh, they just think Korey has a fun little hobby. Isn't that nice? He just goes around the country with his little talent show that he does. It's like, no, I'm trying to do this for real.
How many cities have you officially done this in?
Probably a dozen or so.
Oh wow,
That's pretty good.
Yeah, plug it right now. Then let's get some attendance going. Like that's that's the whole thing.
Well, I mean, so the only things on the horizon right now are so Comedy Works this Wednesday, so September 18th, and then we've got McMiniman's in Portland, McMiniman's Al's Den, that's downtown, on September 21st.
Okay.
And then we're doing. I'm super stoked about this. So we're doing 2 Halloween shows. We're doing one the night before Halloween at the Downtown Club in Denver.
Okay.
And then Comedy Works South on Halloween. And the idea is we're getting prisoner jumpsuits for all the comics. And we'll be wearing our usual like cop uniforms. And we're going to put in the ticket link and the purchase to wear orange. And we'll have a backstock of orange t-shirts as well, so that it looks like we're doing
bunch
the
of
show.
prisoners,
Yeah, so
like-
it looks like we're doing the show in a prison. Like,
Well,
Guys
it's,
are like,
it's funny because I was like,
That's
when you
funny.
said, hey, you text me and I have your name, I was like, oh shit. I was like, what crime did I tell him? But it was the crime I texted you was on Halloween.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to read it?
Yeah, go for
yeah.
it. So this is what he does. So on his stage, you can put in the number and then you text him the crime that you committed, then they'll read it on stage.
the crime that you committed or just that you like witnessed?
So it's super loose. I
Okay,
always tell
all right.
everybody that that's the theme
I'm like,
of the
well,
show.
let me see if I'm outside the statute of limitations on some of this stuff.
Some are, some aren't, you know, but I'm never going to tell unless my phone gets confiscated. Then I think we're all in trouble, which I am trying to figure out a way to work around. But it just has to be anything crime related. So that
Okay.
even could drinking or drugs, whatever it is. You didn't have to get caught. The police never had to be involved, but I also like to include sometimes the cops are involved in a situation even if you didn't do anything, right? Like if you just stumbled upon a situation that was kind of weird or kooky. It's a loose theme, like in that
I like
regard.
it. All right.
Let's
See,
see.
I got some great material for you. I used to own a bunch of dispensaries. I had a lot of people try to break in.
Oh, I'm sure.
Had a lot of armed robberies. We tracked a lot of these guys down. I actually have a really good one for your show. We'll talk about it.
Well,
that
there's a
that-
number to text in.
Was that the baseball bat with the blood I saw in the lobby?
The showpiece.
No, I didn't have to use that. I actually used the SWAT
I
team
love
on
that you
that.
actually had one. No, that time I didn't have to. You used a SWAT team?
Oh yeah, we tracked a guy down. This was back in 2014.
Like when you say you tracked a guy
Yeah.
down.
So the Denver cops were not awesome in this.
Shocker.
Yeah, and so what happened was, and I don't want to make the show about myself, but what had happened on this one was we had one of my staff stage a robbery.
What?
And these our stores we did a lot. We were doing everything in cash, made a lot of money. And so we had 3 separate vaults. And so there were the drop vaults for the night, and those certain people would only have the combinations for. The managers would have the combinations for the payroll safes. Only a couple of them had them. And so you would have to know that person would have that combination.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And we, at any given time, we would keep, at the time we had our payrolls every couple of weeks were $200,000. So we had a lot of employees at the time. I think I had 90 employees at the time. We ended up, when I sold the company, we had 200 employees, but back then 90. And so I had all this cash sitting in a safe. Guy came, it was like the worst stage robbery ever. Everybody was gone. It's a Sunday, 7 o'clock at night in the summertime. So the lights, it's still sun out.
Yeah.
And you're
this guy's got stuff to do after. What do you mean?
So
He's just going to rob you. He's going to go out after.
This guy doesn't arm the system, right? Which is okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't dummy locks the door. There's cameras everywhere in this place, right? It's right downtown, around 21st and Arapahoe. Walks halfway across the street. This guy that's been sitting by his truck, literally waiting, is got the cigarette smoking going on. He walks halfway across the street. The guy turns around, points a gun. He just puts his hands up, walks right back to the door. And I'm like, dude, listen, man, I've been robbed. That is not how that sequence of events looks like.
In a movie, it does. Yeah.
High pitched voice. Oh no! Don't shoot.
Yeah. But literally, without him saying anything, he just walks right back to the door, opens it right back up, walks in. So I'm like, I get this call, and I was actually out on my boat. I get a call. It's Sunday afternoon.
I'm so curious how the SWAT team gets involved. This seems like a pretty open.
I go down. This guy, it's like, we got robbed. I'm like, I'm already not believing it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is impossible. He's like, he made me sit in the room and count to 100 and blah blah. I get there. There are 7 cop cars out in front. So I'm like, all right. I walk in. I watch the video, and I'm like, everybody out of my office right now. I said, man, you're gonna sit down right here. I said, you can tell me the truth or you can tell me a lie.
So you started interrogating him
Oh,
yourself?
yeah.
Where's the cops? The cops
said,
aren't
listen,
even...
man, all the cops just watched this movie and we all thought the same thing. Who is this guy?
Yeah.
I said, if you tell me right now and you don't make me do this the hard way, I promise this is going to be a lot better for you.
I love your interrogation strategy. Is the same one my mom used when I drank all the chocolate milk. You can either tell me the truth right now, it's not going to be that bad.
Also, you can tell me the truth now and I don't press charges against you, or this goes bad for everybody involved on your side of the table.
Yeah. Wait, you can count
he's
to
like,
100?
I can't believe you're fucking telling me that I'm the victim here. And I'm like, are you though? I'm like, listen, man, if I thought you were the victim, I'd be treating you like a victim right now. I'm like, this was the worst acting I've ever seen in my life.
How long ago was this?
Is 2013, 14.
Okay, so a while ago.
Yeah.
Because it's not like modern times where you're like, if I feel like a victim, you just go, I'm trans. You know what I mean? You're like, shit, now we can't prosecute him. Or can't her.
He didn't have that one in his bag, man. Yeah, he wasn't ready.
So did he confess?
So he didn't. And so immediately,
I wouldn't either.
I had this, as you know, we have this great attorney named Mark Bryant.
Yeah.
Now, Mark has done a lot of work for the Banditos and the Peligrosos, and he's a very great criminal attorney. He was my mentor growing up.
Okay.
And I called him up and I said, listen, man, here's what happened tonight. I said, how quick can you have one of the trackers come down here and track this kid? I'm like, because I am 100% sure this kid is involved in this. And he's like, I'll have him there in 30 minutes. He goes, just keep him there.
What kind of trackers?
Like a person.
Like somebody, a person?
Somebody that they, motorcycle gangs will use or other people will use to track people down that owe money or to find people that are skipping. Like,
I never thought of that.
Were you thinking like an air tag?
No, I was thinking like a dog. You know what I mean? That hunts
like a
deer.
person.
Yeah. And so a guy that works on Wall Street, he's like, I can smell where the money is.
This guy definitely can smell where the money was. And so he's like, here's the car he's driving. Here's where he'll be. Just when he gets there, let him know. He's like, just keep the guy there. So I said, okay. So the cops are like, listen, there's nothing else we can do. They kept him there. So I walk outside. They don't realize that I walked around the block, told this guy what the guy's car looked like, whatever. So he leaves. Everybody leaves. They're on this guy. And so he's like, he's giving me hour by hour updates. This guy's sitting on his house. I'm like, listen, the only time I need to know, I said, I'll be up there tomorrow morning. I said, if this guy starts driving towards the airport or if he starts driving out of town, call me.
Yeah.
And we have to stop. We'll stop him. I'm like, but other than that, I'll be up there tomorrow morning.
Luckily, if he's heading towards Nebraska, you can see him for a while.
So I'm like,
we've been tracking him for a day.
No, he went straight to his house. This guy didn't move, right? So I'm like, okay. So we go 2 days. We had him sitting on the houses, just kids just moving around doing his thing. And so finally, I'm a little upset because we're not able to find him. So I come into work. I'm smoking a cigarette outside, and one of the kids like, "Hey, I heard there was a robbery," and I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "That's crazy, man," and he's like, I used to hang out with Manny a lot, and his buddy, this guy Tim Price, he has this certain car, and I'm like, "Is it a red Ford pickup?" And he's like, and I'm like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "How did you?" I said, "Man," he goes, he used to take me water skiing at Sloan's Lake. And I'm like, how does Manny have a fucking wakeboard boat? This kid makes $40,000 a year.
Yeah.
I'm like, and how does he tow it? Because he drives like a little used Audi. He's like, his buddy Tim drives it. And I'm like, and I walk him right in. I'm like, show him the video. And he's like, yeah, that's Tim. And that's his truck. And I was like,
Yeah.
And I was like, and so can we go down and give a statement to the police real quick? So now I got the guy sitting on this other. So I'm like, you need to move over to this other guy's house because now I'm 100% sure this guy has the money.
Yeah. This guy's just flashing
so now
the
they're
cash.
sitting on his house. So come to find out, this guy had taken the money, bought a brand new chopper. It took all of his buddies to a Red Rocks concert.
So yeah, that whole thing about laying low. This guy didn't.
Not the smartest criminal, right?
I will say for a split second, I wasn't thinking that kind of chopper. And I was like, wow, you started getting to work a lot faster. Is there a good place to park my helicopter right now?
Bought a helicopter. Bought a chopper. Like one of those.
Like motorcycle.
Like a motorcycle.
So I'm just being
so
stupid.
he bought a couple new motorcycles and all that stuff. And so now they're sitting on that guy's house. And I'm like, listen, if this guy moves now.
Yeah.
And so they went in, they identified him, they got the warrants. And so I'm sitting there watching this. The cops and North Metro Task go in and kick this guy's door in.
Wow.
Pull him out of the house. They find so of the 200,000 that got stolen, it was 198,000. They recovered it was 150,000 of it.
Okay.
He had already spent like fucking 50,000
in a few days or
in
like
like
a week.
couple days,
But
like less than a
a
week.
truck, and a motorcycle. He's a pretty frugal shopper.
I'm like, it was like Brewster's Millions. Like this guy couldn't spend all the money fast enough.
Man, that's wild. Yeah, don't read my crime story because that's really good.
But that's how the show goes, man. It's like somebody tells a story, and then we kind of like interject with questions and just kind of talk through the whole thing and just try to make some jokes about it.
Oh, yeah.
That's like the whole story. That's the whole
This
show.
definitely all happened, man.
I never doubted you.
This guy actually just finished paying the restitution off last year. Actually,
Well, tell him to come to the show. We'd love to hear more about it.
I'm sure he wouldn't like to do that. He actually did write. I will give him this. He did write me an apology letter.
That's good.
Later,
cool.
after, because he went to
had
prison.
a lot of time on his
He
hands.
went to prison. He did go to prison. He served some time, and he did write me an apology letter, though.
Yeah, and most people don't even write Christmas cards anymore. So that's pretty.
Well, you know
that's
what the
pretty
weird thing
thoughtful
was? It turns out this guy and I actually used to play baseball against each other in high school.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Which I didn't even realize.
What's the
Maybe that was the underlying motive.
Yeah,
to be completely honest.
Guy found out, beat him out for all conference, and then all of a sudden,
Payback.
I'm getting robbed.
what is the craziest story that someone told you where you're like, what?
Well, we did have somebody that killed someone on the show, but he was in the military, so it was like above board technically,
okay.
But it was definitely heavy. This was a couple years ago, so I'm gonna forget some of the details. But the essence of it was that while he was active duty in Afghanistan, it was a story about killing somebody and just the moral conundrum of it. Yeah. So some of the shows, they're funny, but because it's based in true crime, it's not expected to be funny. If there winds up being funny parts to it, that's great. We love that. But we can kind of force the funny part to happen in the Q&A and the text message part. Mm-hmm. So at its core, it still is a true crime show where, there can be levity to some of these stories, but I think people are just kind of locked in. And some of the reasons that people come to the show is that they're true crime fans and they want to hear a story, right? So there's not this built-in pressure of like a stand-up comedy show where there has to be a laugh like every 30 seconds or something.
Right.
It's no, people are engaged, they're listening. Don't get thrown off if they don't laugh at certain spots or whatever. Just finish your story. We can make up for it on the back end with the questions and
I have
the text.
material for this story.
Well, I'd love to have you on one.
This is one story.
Yeah.
Do you know how many attempted break-ins we had and the dumb shit that I've seen people do?
Oh, I can only
to try
imagine.
to break into a dispensary.
Yeah, especially it's funny because I feel like the motive there is for money, right? Because weed isn't like the kind of drug that people are like scratching their necks for, and they're like, I gotta get
it's
some
the
today.
Cash. Oh yeah, it's the cash.
Yeah, money
Oh, yeah.
makes people do the dumbest things in the world.
I won. A guy fell through our sunroof on our dispensary, which I didn't realize that was like an exposure because it's 15 feet in the fucking air.
Really?
This dumb shit sat up on the roof. We didn't realize it for about 3 hours. And there was a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken and a couple of things of Mountain Dew. And when we closed down the store, all of a sudden, all the alarms start going off in my store. And I'm like, what happened? So I come back. It's like 3 hours after we left.
I was really hoping it was when the store was open. And then when he crashes through the sunlight, some bud tender's like, hey, man, what kind of eye you looking for?
Eating some chicken.
Yo, you guys,
like you need a pain.
You need sativas, bro.
Yeah. You look like you need some pain reliever, man. You got a shard of glass coming out of your neck.
This guy actually fell, on the video, he fell straight through, crashed into the fucking display case.
So it's double.
We got there, he was still laying there. I was like, oh, man.
Yeah. I mean,
Was he knocked out?
get up?
Just embarrassed.
Totally knocked out. Well, I'm like, I'm not gonna touch him because I'm like, well, if he's dead, I'm not sure. He wasn't dead. Like in the movies, you touch their neck. I was like, nah, man, I'm just calling somebody.
Is there a goal with the show? I mean, so you're saying that like you're not really hitting the road a lot. You're kind of following this show that you're doing. Is there a bigger picture for this, or?
Yeah, so I mean, originally, so when I started doing the show, we just started it in the back of a brewery that I've worked with for a couple of years, and it just kind of evolved from there. So
Sweet.
when I was just going on tour for stand-up, I would ask venues, hey, do you also want to do this other show that I have? And it started to just naturally progress from there. And I do the show a lot down in Houston because my buddy owns a club down there, and we've developed such a following just down there that I wound up deciding to film a special for it that we put on YouTube. And just based on pure motivation, really. I used my own money. I worked with my friend's production company down there, which he did at, I guess, technically a discounted rate, but it still was a pretty big chunk of cash, like all in on this thing. Just because I wanted to have a high quality proof of concept in case there was ever an opportunity to pitch it to someone or a production company, whatever. So then I had pitched it to the owner of Comedy Works, I don't know, maybe back in February or March.
Wendy?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
When the special was coming out, so I could send it to her, and then just nothing. And then all of a sudden, she got back to me a couple months later. And was like, "Hey, do you want to do the show at the club?" And that was in May. So we did the first one, huge success, and then each one has been great since. And the telltale sign is that they give you more dates. Heaven forbid. That's how you can tell if a show's doing okay. But because of that, my focus has just kind of shifted a little bit, where. As before, I felt like I kind of was doing everything on my own. I still kind of am, but I thought the answer to the question was being in front of as many people as possible nationally in person. And I still think that is the avenue to take. But because the picture just changed, right? So now because of that, I can do 2 shows a month at one of the highest visibility clubs in the country. And I have a meeting with them this week about them helping me with the YouTube series. So before, I was just releasing episodes on my own from another venue we were using in Denver and just putting out episodes on my YouTube page. But with them, they have, 4 cameras, 5 different audio files that we can use, like, so 3 mics for the stage and then 2 mics in the crowd. So their just capabilities are a little bit more than what I'd had to begin with. So because of that, we're going to be ramping up the production value and the visibility on the YouTube series so that we can release episodes kind of like Kill Tony or kind of like This Is Not Happening. More in the This Is Not Happening side of things. Are you guys familiar with that show?
No.
I am.
It was Ari Shaffir's old storytelling show. So they would do a show at a place in LA. I forget the name of it. But
It wasn't just crime though, was it?
No, there would be a different theme every show.
I remember this.
And the whole show probably had 5 or 6 comics on it, similar to this. But when he would release episodes, it was just the one comic's story. So Mark
And then
Norman,
they would all respond to that one story.
yeah, so when like a new episode releases on the YouTube page, it would just be Sean Patton's story. It would just be Mark Norman's story. So that's what we're doing with this. So I just released my buddy Sean Began's episode. I released Elliot Woolsey's episode. That's kind of the next step is increasing the online visibility. And then just, I need to just develop a bigger online presence. So that way, when I do tour, it's not such a crapshoot as to whether or not I'm gonna make money on this. Because I mean, as you guys are aware, you host events and stuff. Sometimes you lose freaking money on doing this. Well, everybody else gets paid except for me, and that's okay. I'm
That's
fine
usually
with
how
that.
it goes in the beginning. But it's like at some point you're like, all right,
I got to make some
this
money.
needs to this is a charity.
And some places you do, and sometimes
Yeah.
you don't. Like the first time I went to Portland, I did make money, and I didn't know if I would because we'd never done the show there before, right? So
Did you go out and buy a chopper afterwards? Is that...
yeah, just with some new dunks.
Yeah. Well, dude,
He didn't rob the venue.
Let's commit a crime today.
That's gonna be a great part of my set.
Some people will send that in. They're like, "Well, I was drinking and driving on the way over here. Does that count?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that absolutely counts."
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
didn't get caught, it doesn't count.
Yeah. So that's kind of the next step is just increasing visibility, and I want to just reach as many people as possible to start bringing in more revenue. So not only can I make more money, but then that way I can start increasing the production value of the show and start paying people. Like I want to bring people on board so I can have somebody running my tech. I can have somebody running my social media.
So you're not doing everything.
Yeah, and I'd love to have somebody be like a call screener because like one of the reasons I have a co-host on the show is we're getting the text messages in live, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going through those myself and then selecting them based on a few different variables like brevity, what's the context of the text, and does it fit? So one of the things I like to do is like tell one ridiculous one and then tell one that's really silly and innocuous, right?
Yeah.
Just that juxtaposition
Kind of
sometimes
balances it.
gets a laugh, but I'm picking that. What I'd love to do is have a call screener, right? Like have somebody else like getting the text messages, and then that way we can put them up on a screen so we're like all reading them live together, right? It's all these incremental steps to just increase the quality.
I like it.
Yeah, man, it just takes time.
Well,
That's
I
all.
think
Yeah.
I think even with I'm from Denver, man, we're down to support everything. I
We
mean,
can
even-
definitely help. Yeah, we can
throwing
do this
things up
right
on
here.
Throwing up on our
I think
blogs.
we should do it like once a week, man.
Well,
Just
having you on the podcast and then throwing up your episodes on the website and sharing it on
Thanks,
our
man. Yeah, I
network
appreciate it.
would just be fun.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about I think entertainment at large and comedy particularly. It's always everybody. You never know who's gonna break first, and the hope is typically that when somebody in your crew or somebody in your community kind of takes off, the thing that naturally starts to happen, excuse me, is you bring people up with you, right? Like you guys familiar with Shane Gillis?
Yeah.
So he's really great about getting people stage time, bringing people on tour. When Tires came out, like that whole show is just his buddies.
Yeah.
You know, so he got the opportunity because he popped
him with.
off.
Yeah.
And Stavros is obviously like very big as well. But like that's all it is. When people ask sometimes, what's your goal?
Did
It's
you
like,
see the thing he did for it was Trump and Biden?
oh gosh,
Oh my
so
god,
funny.
I was
yeah.
pissing my pants.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah, his Trump impression is top notch.
He's got it.
Well, yeah, that's the only reason we're helping you is just so you can bring us along after you
That
make
shit,
it.
I seriously watched that twice. I was like, this guy's, he's got his number back.
Oh my gosh, yeah, on that Kill Tony episode.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
That's the thing about Kill Tony that like I think it's cool because it gives it really does bring people up and and gives people visibility, and all of a sudden people's followers jump a ton when they're on that show. But man, it's pretty ruthless sometimes in the sense of the stuff that works the best is like homophobia, misogyny, just being super offensive for the
You
sake
gotta
of
trigger
doing
people,
it.
man.
Yeah, it's I mean
Jared figured that out yesterday.
what'd you do?
Oh, I don't know. Did I commit a crime? Is this another crime?
No, that's part of the problem with
no. I know what
He
I
might
did.
have committed a crime
No, I
against
was
the
just-
Swifties.
Part of the problem with being autistic is you don't know you're being awkward.
yeah, exactly. I had no idea. I was like, no. So I just posted, and whatever, Trump did it, and I have somewhat of a following, just so I was like, I'm just gonna mess with everyone. And so all I wrote was like, I hate Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
It was nothing, and it was only because I had a few drinks. And I was like, let me just see what happens here, and then so I posted it, and literally all the comments blew up. His wife and his daughter, and I got his daughter a Taylor Swift like portrait, and so like he wakes up, and they're like, Jared hates Taylor Swift, and like all these people are like really coming at me, like, "What's your problem with Taylor Swift?" And I'm just like, Jesus Christ.
Now all of a sudden you have to defend yourself in the comments, which is never great.
No, I
You're
have,
just playing catch up the whole
I
time.
have to defend being friends with him now.
Yeah. It seems like it's already hard enough.
Yeah, it's really hard, bro.
Well, it's funny how like you're just doing something to kind of provoke a conversation or at least get some attention, right? And then you wind up having to keep things alive by just having arguments with people. I'm going through that right now. I have a clip that's like that's doing pretty well
cool.
right now, and it's not even funny. It's literally just my friend Elliot had gotten a DUI back forever ago, and he got advice from one of our friends that was in law school at the time about what to do at a DUI stop. So somebody asked him during during the show, what were the tips?
Talk.
Right. They were like, what were the tips that they gave you? And he listed off this, that, or whatever.
Yeah.
And the comment section is just riddled with, how about you just don't drink and drive? And I'm just like, yeah, no shit. Yeah. Like, do you not understand the point of the show?
That's not the topic, man.
But then I'm just having to pretend I care in the comment section just to keep the reactions alive and stuff.
Listen, man, friends that make good decisions aren't as good. They're not as funny, man.
Yeah, exactly. And also, that's the point. That's the whole point of the show.
If all my friends make good decisions, I'd have nothing to talk about.
And I keep having to tell these people, I'm like, you don't get to be the arbiter of which crimes are committed by losers and heroes. You know? Like, a crime inherently was, oops, I screwed up.
Yeah.
You know, like that's not.
It's not planned out. Like, you know what? Today I'm gonna get in trouble.
Right.
Like,
That's the
Jail
whole
is
point
full
of
of
it.
people
Yeah.
that thought they were going to get away with it, man.
Or that you didn't do it. Andy Dufresne, perfect example. Yeah. He didn't do it either.
Dude, well,
He definitely didn't do it.
We gotta have you back on. We're down to support, man. We'll definitely be at the show that you have coming up.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, one more time, man. If anyone you want to give them a plug on how they can find you and watch your YouTube channel, like I'm gonna be like Hot Ones when we did that the other day.
We could do that
there.
again. I mean, I don't know if I did a good job.
We should definitely do that again. There's a Hooters right over here.
Just do like a local comedian's hot ones. That'd be pretty fun. By the way, my girlfriend went to Twin Peaks the other day for the first time. She's like, "There's so many butts here." I'm like, "Don't stare, honey." It's not. She was like a third. She's never been before, so I'm like, "You're acting like a 13-year-old boy right now." She's like, "Stop staring." Sorry, sidetrack. But what was I gonna say?
Promote yourself.
Oh, yeah. So I just want to say thank you guys for having me on. And yeah, if we ever do this again, I'd love to go through some of the text messages. We didn't even get to yours.
No, that's all
you
right.
know what I mean?
His crime supersedes mine.
I'm just doing a mini police blotter.
okay.
Your crime's still good, man. It's still good. It still counts.
That still counts.
But if you want to find me, it's fake Korey David with a K on Instagram and YouTube. You can go to my website, KoreyDavid.com. Everything's with Korey with a K. For interrogation, it's at Interrogation True Crime, YouTube and Instagram. So give those a follow. Upcoming tour dates: September 18th, Denver; September 21st, Portland; and then October 30th and 31st here in Denver as well. Those are the Halloween shows. And you can go to the Comedy Works page if you want to find tickets. You can also buy tickets on my website. And if you come to the show, please send us a text. We love to read them.
Yeah, if you commit a crime after
Definitely
watching
come.
this,
Make sure it's outside the statute of limitations. We'd
Yeah.
love to talk about it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Call in.
cool. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys.